Okay, guys, we're getting ready.
Hi, everyone. If you're watching, we're just giving a minute so we can make sure the link is also on Facebook. We'll get started in just a few seconds. Again, I'm going to say for those of you who are joining us, we're also getting the link started on Facebook. We're on YouTube Live right now, but we're getting the link posted for Facebook. And as soon as Amanda gives me the okay, we will get started.
Karen, go ahead.
Okay, hello everyone. I am Karen Utley, President and co-founder of the International Foundation for CDKL5 Research. But most importantly, I am mom to Samantha, and she is the reason that I am involved with this beautiful community of people. It is my honor to welcome you to the 5th International CDKL5 Family Education and Awareness Conference. Today, we were supposed to be gathered in Houston, starting off with handshakes and hugs and breakfast. Unfortunately, we are in a time that large group gatherings are not safe for anyone, and especially not our community. This is disappointing to all of us. Today, and over the next few weeks, we will do our very best to overcome the obstacles due to COVID-19 to bring you a variety of virtual programming. In May, when we were faced with the current challenges and we had to make the difficult decision to cancel our in-person event, we surveyed the community, and we appreciate all of you that took the time to help us by participating. From this survey, we were able to learn the virtual format that you preferred, as well as the talks that were a priority to you. The results were used to build this programming, because this conference is about families, their interests, and their questions. This will start with live programming over the next 2 days, but it will not end there. We will continue to release more talks on clinical care, CVI, various therapy options, as well as other topics of interest. All sessions will be recorded and create enduring materials linked on our website. They'll be endearing too, you will love them. This way, no one misses anything. All of us at IFCR are honored to host this year's conference in association with the CDKL5 Alliance and the Lulu Foundation. We also want to thank our generous sponsors for their support. Without them, this event would not have been possible. The list of sponsors will be shared throughout the program. I do have a few housekeeping points. If you were watching via Facebook, the Facebook event, please hit like so we know you're there. For the talks that will have question and answers, please either submit your questions on Facebook or email them to question@cdkl5.com. Again, that is question@cdkl5.com. Both of these will be monitored. Hitting like on the questions posted on Facebook will help us be guided in the level of interest in that question in case we do not have time to cover all of the questions. Okay, I think that's all of the housekeeping. So now it is my pleasure to welcome our first speaker, Dr. Jenny Downs with the Telethon Kids Institute. I have known Dr. Downs for many years, and her love and passion for our community is inspiring. She is one of the kindest, most genuine people I have ever met. I'm going to turn this over to her and let her get us started.
Thank you, Karen. Let me share my screen now. Karen, you've disabled
I think Amanda, can you make sure she can share?
my screen sharing. It's still disabled.
Okay. Amanda?
Give me just a second, guys.
Okay.
Okay. All good.
Also, I will say this is as new to us as all of you, so be patient, bear with us, and we'll get through this.
We will. We will. We will. Let me try again. Ah, we're there. We're there. So I can share, which is fantastic. And Karen, can I just check that you can hear me?
I can hear you perfectly, and I can see I now see your slides, it looks like.
You can see my screen.
Your screen, yes.
Okay, so my slides are, let me get rid of that. My talk is about quality of life and living well at home. And it's not traditional to start a conference with about quality of life at the very beginning, but when I think about it, that actually makes sense. It's the most important outcome for us and for our children. And I'm really excited that the way things have gone in this funny upside down year, I had the really exciting opportunity to start the conference. And thank you so much, Karen, for your very lovely introduction. I also am very sad not to be in Houston with you all this year, but I'm super delighted to be here and joining again with IFCR in their really clear and definitive steps at working towards the best family education and awareness conferences that they always do. So I'm really excited to start with quality of life. And on this slide, I would like to point out to you, there's a picture of myself and Helen Leonard, who many or most of you will know, but also is the picture on the very right of my screen. And that's two chaps, Kingsley and Peter, and they're both very talented statisticians. And we work very, very closely with them. So the four of us work really very hard on all of the information we receive, and it's really is a team effort behind all of the things that we are able to produce. So this slide is one that you may have seen before, but it really wasn't that long ago in 2004 when the CDKL5 mutation was first discovered. And this was a team mainly people from Australia, but also from Wales. And you'll see that Helen's name is there on the list. And these two gorgeous girls, who both have CDKL5. And it was that particular family that was really pivotal in starting this journey that is really starting to accelerate in the last few years. So 2004 isn't that long ago. And so what we found is that we were many more children with CDKL5 were being registered with the Interact database. And we were over time by 2012 able to do an analysis where we could compare children with Rett syndrome and CDKL5. And previously the children were thought to be a type of Rett syndrome, but we could confirm that the children were very different clinically. And so we could very clearly state that CDKL5 was a different disorder. And on the left of this slide, you can see the different clinical signs and symptoms that you may observe in your children to a lesser, there's variability to a lesser or greater extent. But what you will also know is that your children have capacity to learn skills. They enjoy activities, doing things, establishing and maintaining the very important relationships in their life, and also their sense of humor. So it's really important that their personality and all of these things are just as important. This gestalt is absolutely critical alongside any clinical symptoms. And so really our pipeline of discovery has been about health and well-being and quality of life. And this cartoon shows in 2012, after that paper where we could say CDKL5 was its own independent disorder, then started the CDKL5 database. Then we have collected data from many families, many of you, and have been able to publish in the literature on a lot of different aspects of the natural history of CDKL5. But more recently, we've been able to work hard on a program of research on quality of life, and that will be the main focus of my presentation to you today. And then I will talk about home participation, which has particular relevance at this point in time when we have such different circumstances in our world, particularly because of the virus COVID-19. So our quality of life program has been funded by the Australian government mains research program, but we also have had, we acknowledge the Lulu Foundation, who enabled our follow-up data where we could collect some quality of life data from children with CDKL5. So quality of life is essentially how a person feels about their overall life experiences. And this is across a range of different factors. It's how we are physically, our social well-being, our emotions, our behavioural well-being, and they're all important to all of us. But it really is a concept where it's about how we feel. When we look to children with disabilities, and in particular children who have difficulties with communication, at my bottom point there, we're very keen to understand how we can observe quality of life and interpret so that we can best understand and support children with a disability. And this is important right from the level of the United Nations Conventions on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, where rights to enjoyment of the best achievable standard of health and well-being is a fundamental principle. And in the words of a mother in any family and in every family, the most important thing to remember is that when their child is born, that child is a child first to his or her family, and the well-being, not the disability, is really what families want for their children. And that comes back to that gestalt of love of social relationships, love of getting out and about, having personality and a sense of humour, are really such gorgeous characteristics in all of us and all of our children. So we set out to understand how we could observe quality of life, because we were very concerned that we did not want children who had more difficulties in communicating and articulating what are very complex concepts. Quality of life is a detailed concept that is difficult to articulate. And we really wanted to know much more how we could observe that. So not to leave any child out of this arena. So we conducted qualitative studies that gave us a library of stories and information from which we could extract statements. We pored over the statements, we talked as an investigative team, and boiled that down to 51 items. We then took our items to parents who we spoke with in depth about our items. We asked them to complete our items aloud in relation to their child, and to share their thinking while they were doing so, and then to tell us how they would write what we were saying. And that then informed exactly how we wrote our items in our questionnaire. And we had 43 items that, with further statistical testing, came down to 32 items. And here are the domains of quality of life that were emerged from our set of 32 items: the importance of social interaction, negative emotions and the impact that has, the importance of leisure in the outdoors, independence, or actually having choice and control in your life, being able to express need and be making some choices in routines, the importance of physical health, and the importance of positive emotion, which is a happy mood and showing cheeky and comical mannerisms. So with this scale, we have been able to examine what helps children to have a better quality of life. So we feel that this has been a very important step forward in the field. So our next question was as to whether QI disability, our new scale, would be suitable for children with CDKL5. And again, we came back to families who were registered with our database, and we recruited 25 families from around the world who participated with us in semi-structured interviews, just like previously. And just like previously, we had a fabulous library of stories and vignettes and examples that enabled us to see if those same domains also applied to CDKL5. They did. Exactly the same domains, the importance of health and well-being, the importance of various different daily activities, and immersion in the community and connecting with services were all just exactly the same domains. So this is then an example, for example, from the CDKL5 interviews, a story of a young girl who was on holiday with her family, and really her seizures were having a major impact on her ability to join with family activities and for the family to do the activities they had wanted to do, because she really needed to sleep rather than being able to enjoy the hotel. So sleep and energy levels were a very strong element from that data. And also social connectedness. And here is a story of a slightly older young chap who would go to the grocery store and connect with this, a lady who worked in the grocery store with him when he went with his mom. And there they hadn't been to the store for a while. She went up and talked to him, and there was recognition, there was connection. His eyes lit up, smiling, and they had a very nice social connection time. And that was a very pleasurable moment for all concerned. He remembered her and enjoyed that interaction. And so these stories gave us a lot of confidence that we should be using QI disability. And this is just an example of some of the bits of the scale that some of you will have actually filled out in our follow-up questionnaire. And that has given us some important information. So this slide is showing you some of that information for CDKL5, and this is 129 children and young adults, 3 to 29 years old. As we would expect, most of the individuals were female, and more than half were from North America. And what we can see, looking down the left of both of those plots, is the scores for quality of life. And we can see that along the bottom, there are different levels of assistance. For the top graph, it's showing sitting, and for the bottom graph, it's showing language. And we can see that the children who have stronger skills are also achieving higher quality of life scores. We also found that the girls had slightly, this box plot at the top on the right of my screen, had slightly higher scores than the boys, but not by much. And we also found that the children who were on more anti-epileptic medications also, on average, this is not every child, these are group scores, on average had lower scores than the children who were on one medication or no medications. And this is not surprising when you can think about the impacts that has on the health of the child, and how, like that first quote where that child really needed to sleep more than he would normally have needed to. So we have some more information about quality of life, and this is with a much bigger data set, which includes children with CDKL5, and we can look at how those different domains, if there might be patterns in those scores. And with more than 500 children, we have this green line that sort of skates along fairly high, but having some lower scores with negative emotions. We see the blue line that also is overall fairly high, but has lower scores for getting out and about with leisure activities and having choice and control. And we see a red line where there are more lower scores for social interactions and leisure and independence. And what this is showing us, we can see on the right that we had children with CDKL5 in each of those patterns, in each of those lines. And remember, these are average scores for each line, which we have to do with a group. But we can see that there are differences in the way children present. There are different needs that the children all have. And we can see by these scores where we might be able to support better to help and assist very directly a child's quality of life. And for example, supporting a child in terms of social interactions and leisure activities could be a very valuable aspect of support that we can find ways to actually achieve that could be valuable. So this is the measure. You can Google, type in QI disability, and you'll probably come up to this page. But it's now been translated into 9 languages, and very importantly, it is also being used in 3 clinical trials at the moment. We have our own clinical trial where we're looking at an activity programs for girls with Rett syndrome, and we are using this as one of our outcome measures. But even more importantly, it's being used as an evaluation, an outcome measure for the ganaxolone trial, run by Marinus, the trial for CDKL5, and also the trial for PCDH19. And so we're really excited that all of this work that started off saying quality of life should be understood for all children has now turned into a tool which can give us information that we hope will help to plan in a very targeted way to really support that ultimate outcome of quality of life, but also can be used to evaluate the effectiveness of different treatments. And there has never been a greater need for strong outcome measures than in this current period of very important steps forward in the world of new medications that are being developed. So that really is going to give me a little part of this talk to just mention to you some of our measurement studies, because it really relates to the quality of life measure as well. But here I acknowledge the support we have from IFCI here, who really have stepped in with us to make sure that this business of developing strong outcome measures happens for this community and for CDKL5. So we are working with the clinicians at the Centres of Excellence and partnering with IFCR, among others. And with that, we have, you can see the little chevrons going across the top of the slide, and they are indicating all the different aspects of different measures that we need to examine to be sure that they are strong, that they are reliable, that they are valid, and also that they respond to time, so to change, so that they really are ready for clinical trials. And you can see down the right, we have 6 outcome measures that we have a plan for how to develop those into clinically trial ready measures. But I just wanted, and quality of life is there, but I just wanted to mention very briefly that for gross motor and hand function, we will be we would like to be collecting little video clips of the children doing different tasks and activities, and that will be something that Helen and I and Jacinta will be contacting families over the next little while. For example, if we can ask for particular tasks such as picking up a drinking cup or a bottle or small pieces of food, whatever the child is able to do, then that can tell us about the grasp and the level of hand function. And this slide is just showing you this brilliant array of pictures of young children picking up different objects, the different objects that we would also be asking here. And you can see that some can pick up objects very well and some have difficulties with picking up objects and need help. But all of those pictures, all of those beautiful pictures are giving us information to help to develop a hand function outcome measure. And that in the end will pay dividends, I believe. It's very exciting to see the colours and the activity. It's terrific. So this brings me on to the final part of my talk. And I wanted to spend this time talking about home participation. And it was at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic that I was contacted by rettsyndrome.org. And I was asked, what do I have? What do I have? What materials do I have to support families who will be much more within their own homes because of the social restrictions, the social distancing. And I actually didn't have anything to give them. But then over a weekend, I thought I must have something, I must get something. And I connected with other therapists and advocates in Australia, in Denmark, in Israel, in Italy, and the USA. And over the course of a weekend, we managed to produce a resource. And this resource has been also shared around. So it's really my pleasure to present it today. So really not sure of what I would be doing. I really was reflecting on what I was seeing in our news here in Australia, but children who were suddenly at home and not going to school were finding very new ways of living creatively in their immediate world. Their homes were fantastic places, and these are pictures that were on our news, teddy bears in windows and children putting pictures in their windows and the rainbows. And it wasn't just Australia, this was across the world. But it really was inspirational because it told me that being at home, even with social distancing, the children were actually telling us what I ought to be working with other therapists to create a home participation resource, because home lives within any household have value and have enormous creativity. So irrespective of COVID-19, we spend considerable time in our homes, and it's full of resources for our own growth and development, and that's all of our children as well as us as parents or extended family members. And so with all of that extra time at home, it really was an opportunity for me to reflect with the other therapists about families being together and doing things differently, and how there were real opportunities to nurture whilst being at home. And our concern was that families not be worried that their children were so missing out by not being at school, and we would want our children to go to school. Having time at home is enormously valuable and a time of growth. So we went to the concept of home participation, which is defined as activity that is meaningful in the home. And it is consistent with therapy principles. Home participation is a form of intervention. And so COVID-19 has really just shone the spotlight on this concept that's existed in our thinking for almost forever. But it was really not the area of participation that really has been focused on and more clearly defined. So this was a real opportunity. And the resource has been posted on rhettsyndrome.org with their COVID-19 resources, and it's been very widely looked at. But also you may be aware of the DEEP website, where they have a resources section, and the resource is also posted there as well. So we set up some general guiding principles that really, with lots of days at home and less days out, they're really a good start was planning a daily schedule with time allocated to everybody's needs, including yourself, but schedules that can be adaptable and change, and being really aware not to overwork. The importance of maintaining routines for waking and sleeping, encouraging child participation in all of their activities and chores, creating chores as well, looking for opportunity for your child to make choices whilst participating in any activities or chores or fun things is good for communication and autonomy. And being active, helping to sit or stand or walk for some activities indoors and outdoors, and doing things together. So you can see that all of those things actually map to that quality of life framework that we talked of earlier. And all of them have activities that are part of learning and part of development, and consistent with therapy activities, which you can do also if that fits into the schedule where you really have so many more demands on you in that home environment. So these are some examples of different activities, and from the different sections of the resource simply talk about these. They have a different heading and have different ideas in them and some pictures, and all of these pictures are from children in Italy who joined us in developing this resource, and very enthusiastically. And so we have some fabulous pictures of some beautiful Italian children. So everyday cooking is a part of learning, choosing, mixing, how does that pesto smell, what goes into that pot. Special baking activities like making pizzas, making cupcakes, and having choices about how that procedure evolves. Participating in kitchen activities with switches to operate appliances, helping with other chores around the house, having a role in those chores, bringing in the washing, for example, and household chores that are both indoors and outdoors. So in relation to personal care, with a schedule for awake, rest and sleep time, there's a whole range of choice making that can occur during almost every routine aspect of personal care, and the one that comes first to mind would be choosing what clothes to wear. There's a lot of sensory aspects to personal care, so that massage to the shoulders, the hands, the feet, different sensory stimulations to maybe the hands or feet, and then, you know, stop, ask your child to choose, and then if they say yes, then maybe some more, and hairdresser games, which are kind of lots of fun and really cool for siblings to do together. Learning and education, there's the joy of reading together, doing art activities together, music activities together, foot painting together, and also in looking at a whole range of resources, I was really impressed with a lot of story book readings that you can get online, and they're terrific. And so there's a lot of reading activities that can vary how you read and how you look at different material like that online or more traditionally in books. Exercise and activity, opportunities for sitting when they can be built into a schedule, opportunities for uptime, that's standing or walking, and the standing frame, if you have a standing frame, can be an opportunity for cooking, for eating, for playing games, dancing games in sitting, standing or walking with stepping, time on the tummy, lying on your tummy to have back extension and some opportunity to exercise to lift the head up. And also activities in different places in the house and in the garden. So indoor play and games is a list of activities that you'll be very, very familiar with, social games as well as all sorts of games. But really it's the opportunity for choice making and interaction with each other that make any of those games really cool games, because we play games together. I've got this picture for social interaction at home, and one of our items in our quality of life measure is about enjoying the social experiences of mealtimes. And I really feel this is an important item, because it speaks to a routine that happens several times a day, in most households, several times a day. And really families gather together, they're sharing food, there's the smells, the sights, the sounds, the talking, the teaching table manners, there's all of the things that we're learning to be polite and take turns perhaps, and anything happens in meal times. There's all sorts of families and all sorts of meal times, and they're usually a lot of fun. And here, this picture is an old picture from a century and a half ago, but it's an extraordinary picture that illustrates to me how really anything can go at meal times, but it can still be as chaotic as what it might feel sometimes. It's an extraordinarily rich period that's a part of a very important part of our daily routines. And the picture is just a very warm picture that I felt illustrated that the depth of what we get out of our meal times, and having our children with us at our meal times, whether the child is having gastrostomy feeding or oral feeding, it's still the opportunities to join in with meal times is a terrific experience for everybody. Talking together as you're looking through photo albums, sensory stimulation like hand or foot massage again when listening to music, and meeting others. Lots of people have been meeting by face or Skype or Zoom, and that's what we're doing right now here in this particular time. And not forgetting nature and the outdoors and time outside, however small that area is or however large, time outside is enormously stimulating and pleasurable to all children. And there's ideas here, and this particular idea came from the Italian collaborators with building this resource, having a little water bottle that was suitable for a child's hand, and drilling a couple of little holes in the cap so that the child could use that as a very adaptable watering can for the plants. And that was a daily routine for that child. And it's meaningful, and it's gorgeous, and it's outside, and it's together, and it really was a very educational activity as well as a fun thing to do. So home participation really revolves with parents as the hub for that all, and it comes back to the parents. And here I've put up on this slide a cartoon that was developed by our Australian government. Wherever you are, will have different sort of resources like this that are giving advice on people looking after their own mental health during periods of strain such as COVID-19. And I think it's a really important time to reflect on all of the roles that parents have involving the house and the family and work, and the different adapting and new solutions to problems that have to be found. And the idea of thinking about the child's participation isn't to add to anyone's workload, but it's to illustrate how every activities can be augmented or developed somewhat and be extremely useful for your child. And also the need for others to be involved in any of those activities that we put together and illustrated for families. That it's just a list of ideas that give a framework for understanding the possibilities within the home. And having time for yourself, for parents themselves, that is just so important, because, as I say at the top, you're the hub of the family. So I think that's almost it for me. I acknowledge all of the families who we've worked with over the years who've participated in our work. I acknowledge the International Foundation for CDKL5 Research, who have been with us right since 2012. And more recently, we've also connected with the Lulu Foundation. So I thank all of you.
Okay, thank you so much, Jenny. Thank you so much. While if any of you have questions, please post them. We're going to give that a few seconds. And Jenny, I just want to say, I think as you give that talk, there are so many things that I sit there and think, oh yeah, that rings true for us. Or, oh, the other thing was you had the little foot bath on there, and it reminded me that Samantha used to have a foot spa and she loved it. And I thought, you know what, I need to replace that because we don't have it anymore. And I thought that would be a new fun thing to do with her. So, but thank you for all of that information and all of the work you're doing to help our community. Amanda, if you want to show the sponsor slides, and then we'll give a few minutes for questions. Also, I've also been informed, I think you can submit questions on the chat on YouTube Live, and I didn't have that option in my housekeeping. So if any of you want to do that, that is being monitored as well. And Amanda, if you have anything to add, pipe in.
Mm.
I'm going to share my screen, so I'm going to go back on mute. I'll share screen, and I will, Heidi is also moderating comments, so we will look and see if anybody has any comments. And if you watch this at a later date, follow up with us if you have comments, and we'll be sure Jenny gets in touch. We can get you in touch with Jenny so you can chat.
Yes, and if you watch it at a later date, you can use the question@cdkl5.com email address and send those, and we will take care of getting that answered for you, even if it's later. Amanda, are you going to share your screen? We can't see it yet.
We do have a bit of a delay. I just checked the YouTube and there weren't any questions,
Okay.
but there's a little bit of a delay before they get your message.
Thanks, Amanda. We see it now.
I don't see anything between Facebook.
Okay.
Um,
So I also need to say that the document that Jenny referred to, we're going to make sure that's available. And then I also just want to say, if like we said, if someone has questions later, they can submit it. And does anybody have anything else to add?
I think Jenny does such a fabulous job of making these resources. If we post her video and the resource, I think we might find we have a number of questions. And since Jenny's so kind to be willing to take the questions afterwards, that might be a productive use of the caregivers digesting this information and asking questions later.
I agree. And I was just going to let everyone know, one of the things we learned from the survey was that people wanted sessions that they could watch, kind of digest, and then submit questions later. So that's just a great option that we can benefit from when we're doing conference this way. I'm trying to find the upsides because I am quite disappointed, but we will make the best of it. Thank you all for joining us for this talk. Thank you again, Jenny, for taking the time to do this and always being a cheerleader for our community.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny.
We're going to sign off from our live feed if Jenny and Karen will stay on. Heidi?